I've loved putter since I was 13 years old. Obviously, you can tell from that wall. These aren't all just most wanted winners. These are my wackiness and, me wanting to collect any and every design I can get my hands on. Basically how this place started was honestly my love for putters. At a young age, I was enamored with them. I was drawing designs, and a lot of these putters on the wall, if you were to come into the facility one day, you would see the evolution of the groove in this collection. A large part of that collection is from the man you're going to see today, Guerin Rife. And it's because I truly believe that all of his designs are there to help you shoot lower scores. And today we're going to start from the beginning, where the groove started, where it's at now, and how it can help you. So let's check it out. So welcome back to the facility, Guerin. It's great to have you as always.
It's great to be here.
And today we've got a pretty good treat for you guys, I think. Guerin is the inventor of groove technology in putters. There were grooves before, but they were all cosmetic. Basically, when Guerin put grooves on the putter, it was purposeful in regards to trying to help golfers lower their score. So today we're going to go back to the beginning and help you kind of discover and learn how it all got started, what it first looked like, and kind of how it evolved into what it is today. I think the best place to start might be kind of how Guerin and I even met. I was a young kid. I was in putter design already. Mm-hmm. I ran into him at a PGA show and had seen one of his putters. I looked down and went, whoever designed this putter is a genius. And I looked back up and tried to find who this guy was. I stood there for probably 2 hours trying to get his attention without much luck. So I went back to my hotel room, grabbed my putter, which I wanted to show him, see what his thoughts were, which both not only set me on a path to being in golf and almost shut me down from ever continuing in golf, at least putter design. So
come on.
I handed him this putter here.
Let me see it. Okay. This is what he brought me. Now we're talking 2000 and I think five.
I think was the
4 or
first
5.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when you handed this to me, I'm going, yeah, this is really different.
It's not what you actually said to me, but
no, I was thinking that, right? But this is really so different that it's not gonna sell, because I call it the low-hanging fruit of design. So when I do like my new line, the one I have now, they're not out there designs. They're pretty standard, but they have new technology. You were trying to do everything in one putter, and
so what Guerin said to me actually was, I got a minute of his time, and he basically said, now this is a really cool design. He goes, you're not going to sell a single one of them. And I looked up as a kid trying to get into design and said, man, I don't like this guy very much. I'm walking in the next booth. But no, seriously, he also gave me an incredible tip that I've told a lot of putter designers since, and that is, he said, listen, I'm going to give you a tip before you leave. He said, there has never been a popular putter designer ever that doesn't have an answer model. And as much as that frustrated me at the time, because I was an outside the box kind of design thinker, or I prided myself in not wanting to do an answer, he was absolutely correct. And this thing was wild and out there, and while it looked cool, it probably wouldn't have sold many. But nevertheless, that is how I met Guerin. It was a first meeting. I did not talk to him for years after that, and never even knew that I was the owner of My Golf Spy. It was just a chance encounter for somebody that was breaking in the industry. That being said, that was when Rife had first gotten started, but we're going to go way back to the first putter, the very first putter that you designed.
Yes.
And what was that?
Well, I came up with this idea. This is a really deep, complex thought. I wanted to do a putter you could pick the ball up with.
It had never been done, right?
No, hadn't been done. It was just a putter. It was a mallet. I took a mallet and I scooped out the top. And you could just reach down and scoop up the ball. And I painted it blue. I called it True Blue, and I started playing with it and practicing with it and trying it out. And I noticed that the ball, I didn't know there was loft on putters back then. This was the very first time. I was trying to do a training aid for David Ledbetter.
Yeah, you were actually, just so everybody kind of knows, if you've ever seen the series Mad Men, that's kind of what Guerin was before he got into the putter industry. He was an art director, creative guy for one of the biggest...
Lear Burnett, biggest agency in the world.
Correct.
Yep.
And left that. I think after his parents passed away, he moved down to Florida, got into some Disney art creative, met some people in golf that wanted to have some things made in a different country. And before you know it, lo and behold, he met some people like David Ledbetter and some pro golfers, and then realized, hey, I'm pretty good at this art direction thing.
I was becoming aware of the putters that were out there that the pros were using, and my little cavity mallet was just taking it was the zebra putter.
Yes.
You just scoop out the top of the zebra putter, and you have a putter you can pick the ball up with. But what that did, this was the beginning of grooves, because it created bottom weighting in the putter.
The mallet, scooping out the weight.
Out of the top.
Correct.
So there was, the only weight that was left was on the heel, toe, and the bottom.
Yep.
And that bottom weighting created lift. And so you could reduce the loft on the putter, which was, typical loft was about 5 to 6 degrees back then. This is in the
furry turf.
This is in the early 90s, yeah. And you wanted to get the ball up on top of the grass. So you could lower the loft and get this lifting effect. So I thought, why don't I just put some score lines, etch the face, score lines, to have something grip the ball.
Grab that ball.
I mean, everybody, putters are not moving very fast. It's a slow science.
Correct.
So it was about, say about 4 miles an hour, where you have to do something really, you have to exaggerate to get it to grip the ball at that speed. So I put them really close together, and then that gripped the ball and threw it into a nice little quick roll, and that was the beginning of grooves. So after
that was the first cavity back putter that ever existed.
And that was in 1991.
Cavity back mallet.
Mallet.
And just for everybody out there, for that scoop the ball up on the greens, that's how it all started. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So. Well, and I just did a really bad patent too. I did my proportions wrong, and so everybody could get around it back then, and I just abandoned it and let it go. But that was the beginning for me of getting grooves, to putting grooves on putters.
Yeah, I think the other thing that was kind of interesting too is when I learned about that True Blue putter, which I've actually never seen that thing in person. Today was the first time seeing it, which is really cool. But how it came to be, meaning everyone now thinks you come up with a design, you throw it in a milling machine. How was the first True Blue putter made down to the bloody knuckles and all?
Okay, well, yeah, that's 6 miles through snow in the morning. No, I took some clay that hardened, right?
Yep.
So I got this clay, and I made this shape, this mallet shape with this cavity in it, and I took that and put it into, I did a sand casting back then, so I made a sand cast mold where you press it, you have a dividing point, you pull it apart, put it back together, and then you pour zinc in there.
Yeah.
And zinc melts at a pretty low level. So I went out to some company that does that. They do manhole covers and all sorts of stuff. It was in Orlando.
Casts.
Yeah, cheap casting. And we poured the head in there, and I got it out, and it was pretty rough. It had sand texture to the outside of it. And I'd get on a sanding machine, and I'd grind down the face so it's flat, and then I'd smooth out as much as I could. And then the rest of it was just taking sandpaper at different levels, like the coarse stuff, and then the next level and the next level, and just sanding it for hours. And I actually had bloody knuckles inside I'd sanded the skin off my hands, but I created this I ended up with like jeweler's rouge to get this thing really shiny. Yeah. It was like a super shiny putter, and punched a hole in it and stuck a double bend shaft that I got that was already bent.
Did you even have a clue how to do that?
No, no. I just said, well, it's this wide. We put a hole in it, and they measured it and put it in there, and it was too heavy. It was everything was wrong about it. I mean, and it was ugly. I mean, I've got to tell you, it was ugly, but it served the purpose, and it got me hooked.
Yeah.
On making my little idea, and I just stuck with it, and I just kept making more of them, and eventually I showed the putter through Rick Smith. Actually saw it first, and told, he was at Spalding back then, and he told him to take a look at it. And a guy named Jeff Sheets, who is my friend to this day, my best friend in golf.
I know
basically.
Jeff too.
Jeff's a great guy. And he was at Spalding, and so they took it and tested these grooves, which I'd perfected them. I'd gotten them better, and they tested the grooves at Spalding and ended up licensing the grooves from me.
Yeah, that was
back in '96 is when that started.
So in '96, Spalding,
Micro
you
grooves.
yes,
Micro grooves.
micro
yeah.
grooves. So if any of you have ever remember those putters, the micro groove putters from Spalding, Guerin had licensed the grooves for more, not cosmetic, but technological purposes, right? To actually improve
the roll.
Exactly.
Right.
And this is where all these videos start. You know, everyone that hears about the roll being improved in putting based on grooves. At first, when you first came out with this, I remember there was a lot of resistance, not only from the manufacturers but from golfers. And there's nothing new about resistance for new, you know?
No, absolutely. Well, what happened, just my personal experience, is that after Spalding came out with it, they did a bunch of designs, and it was made of brass, and it was called micro grooves, and they had just started to get them out and start to make them, and then Callaway came along and bought Spalding Top Flight.
Correct.
So when they did that, they had the insert technology. They didn't need my grooves. So I was getting a royalty, so I just said, no royalty, give me my technology back.
Yep.
And so I did my own designs, just a couple simple designs. I went out to California and got with a machine shop and did it the way you're supposed to do it, where you do a CAD file.
Non-clay.
It wasn't made of clay, and it was milled machine. It was a head that had the grooves on it, and it had some sight lines, and it was just like an answer head.
A couple basic putters.
Low-hanging fruit design.
What was that putter company called?
That was Guerin Design Putter Company.
Guerin Design. So that was previous to Rife.
Yes.
Gotcha. So you had the True Blue, then you licensed to Spalding. Callaway buys Spalding, you get that tech back.
Exactly.
And now you're on your own.
Then I'm on my own. So I do a couple designs, and then I ended up doing a couple more. But I took those first designs out. I got out on tour. Actually, Dow Fensterwall put the first one in play.
Dow who?
Dow Fensterwall, you kid. He won the PGA. He was Arnold Palmer's great buddy and lived at Bay Hill. And Dow's a wonderful, wonderful man. And he did the first one. I did a little contract with him, and he put it out in play on the Champions Tour. And I got my tour card, my pass to go on tour.
So Monday through Wednesday, you were out on tour hustling, and Thursday through Saturday.
I had a bag made, and I was out on tour showing these putters. People were, these guys, they called me a kook. I mean, this guy's putting grooves on putter faces. That's crazy.
You were the DeChambeau back then of
well,
PGA.
yeah, but I wasn't that smart. But anyway, so then the tour, they kick you out of there on Wednesday if you're a manufacturer. You do your thing with the practice days, and then you're off on your own. You go home or whatever. Well, I just had my car loaded up with my little putters that I made, and I would go around to the Edwin Watts and the different stores that I had already shown this stuff to, and I'd go in and talk to the manager, and do demo days kind of in the stores on Thursday, Friday, or whatever day I got there. If it was in Atlanta, it may be a Friday where if I drove.
So back then,
I lived on the road.
You lived on the road.
Yeah.
You were hustling the tour, trying to get your name out there, and then days you weren't on the tour. So you're saying that back then you could just walk into the local store with your putter designs and Edwin Watts and try to get them to carry your putter line.
Yep.
And that worked back then.
It did. But Edwin Watts was already aware of it. I mean, I'd already been to the home office, or I'd already been to the main guys.
Gotcha.
Sven was this guy. After Mr. Sven is a great dude, and he kind of opened the doors for me. I went through the Orlando office, and they said, okay, you can do that. So, and I'd go in and I'd have a little, I had a little tray set up, and I had a little thing that would be a display, and I'd put my little stuff in the corner, and I'd cut
The
the
art
deal with them.
director type of
I'd
deal.
send the bill to the home office, and I'd get paid, and that's how I survived.
Yeah.
And so then, well, in the year 2002 or 2000, right there, the Odyssey came out with that 2-ball putter. That single putter was bigger than any putter company.
Yeah.
I mean, all of us added together weren't as big as that single putter.
It's pretty amazing,
It was,
right?
oh, it was incredible. But one of the things, being a marketing guy, I knew that you had to be able to see it on TV.
You knew why it was successful.
Sure, you'd see it on TV all the time. That white face, the 2 balls.
Well, it was visible to the consumer too when they walked in the store.
Visible technology.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that really, I said, I got to do something like that. My grooves were just too much of a story to
So
explain.
the 2-ball was an inspiration for what was to come next for you, for sure.
The 2-bar sounded like it. I'm happy to have people confused.
Yeah.
Isn't that the 2-ball? No, it's 2-bar.
Well, that's
Great.
the next time I ran into you. So
Yeah.
the 2-bar was
That was my launch. That was when I kind of became. We sold, upwards of 300,000 or 400,000 or 500,000 of those things.
yeah. So
Before it was all over.
I was walking through the PGA show like I do every year, and putters is my passion, behind the scenes with my golf spy. I love them and have since I was a kid, and I am always taking notes at the PGA show, so my head's almost always down. And you walk the aisle if you've ever been there, and your eyes catch certain things. Mine caught the 2-ball, and I immediately
Ball
knew.
or bar?
Sorry,
See,
mine
that
caught,
was the mistake
see,
I wanted you to make.
Clever marketer, but
Yeah.
mine had caught the 2-bar, or that caught my attention, and without even looking up and seeing the colors or anything, I already knew who was going to be on the other end, which is interesting because the 3 times that it's happened with you, my head has been down, and the last time it happened was the putter we'll talk about later, was the Evnroll. I
Right.
looked down. I didn't even know you were back in the business.
2015.
I looked up and we chuckled at each other, and I said, "Man, you did it again. You've gotten my eye,
Yeah,
And
that was fun.
so, in my experience in the 20 years I've been doing this, and as a avid putter connoisseur, designer, whatever you want to call it, I've studied a lot of designs over my time, and I've also had a handful of my own. And I would say, in my experience, there might be 5, maybe 8 guys on the Mount Rushmore of putter design. I think you're one of them. Scotty Bettinardi, Bobby Grace, but was back there on there for a while, and some others. I think you're on there for a couple of reasons. One, because I think your designs in general, where others might go for flash in the pan and looks to try to catch your attention, I thought you have always focused on tech. Now, you have married the design with the tech very well, but you're not the Scotty Cameron type. I think he focuses less on tech and more on, the artistic side of it,
Beauty,
and
packaging,
the beauty packaging.
dress.
But I would also say that without Scotty, there would be no Guerin, and without Scotty, there wouldn't be many putter designers in general. He raised the bar for everyone.
Yeah, oh, no, absolutely. We wouldn't be able to charge $300 or $400 for a milled putter if that space had not been really developed and made possible by what Scotty Cameron has done. He's a great marketer, number one. He's a great designer, and my hat's off to him. I mean, I've always complimented what he does.
Every putter designer should take their hats off to him pretty much every day.
Yeah, no, he's done great stuff, and it's it's just art. I mean, he calls it the art of putting, and it is.
Yep.
And so, anyway, but that's been that's not where I can't compete with that.
Yeah,
I'm
so
not going to get in that space. Mine is to go, as I said earlier, the low-hanging fruit. Just keep the designs clean, elegant, so they look good from 360 degrees, but put some technology in there that takes it the next level. And I have to be the technology guy. I mean, but I'm not going to deliver technology like 2 kinds of plaid, like an odd-looking design and odd-looking technology, because then you don't win. Then you don't win either. So yeah. No, that's actually. I mean, you're quite contemporary now. So. You're just
But
ahead of
that
your
takes
time.
us to how you kind of got on the Mount Rushmore, at least in my opinion. And some get there by beauty and some get there by tech, right? I think you've gotten there by tech. And I think how you got there, from a third party opinion back then, not being a part of my gospel or anything, was seeing those commercials of the 2-bar putter. And it took the world by storm. And if people know putter sales in general and how many models are sold, how many putters did you sell of the 2-bar with that infomercial?
Well, it was up in the 300 to 400,000 range over the course of.
That's a lot of putters.
It is a lot of putters. They were priced to be in that 150 range to 200, and we went after the Champions Tour. We didn't try to go up against the PGA Tour. Not possible. The Champions Tour was a smart decision by the guys that were involved and that are involved in that project that helped me out to get started.
And I think it knocked down some hurdles in regards to that initial resistance that you had with, let's say, the True Blue or Guerin designs,
right,
where you were looked at as kind of a mad scientist out on tour. When the manufacturers started hearing that the 2-bar sold 300,000 or 400,000, the resistance dropped off pretty quick, and you started to see other putter companies start to put grooves on putter.
Well, and also there's something I call critical mass in the putter business. When you have enough people out there using a certain product, a certain design, a certain technology, they become your advertising because they're playing with friends, and it's a noticeable product, and you go, well, what is that? Try it, and people would try it. And so they would come to us just out of the fact that they played with a friend who had it. It wasn't because of our infomercial or whatever, but then they would see the infomercial later, or we would have somebody on tour would show up on the Champions Tour and win, and it would be visible on TV.
I mean, people might not remember this, but that putter hit the world by storm. I mean, it went from 0 to 100 instantly.
Quickly, yeah.
Really quickly. I mean, you got a ton of people playing that on tour. You had tons of sales, tons of commercials, tons of people talking about a model that doesn't happen very often in golf. I mean,
No, it doesn't.
It happened with the 2-ball, it happened with some other putters before it, but since then it really hasn't happened that much. With Scotty, obviously it's happened when Tiger and a few others. Seymour, it happened when Payne Stewart won. I mean, it's a rare thing, and it's lightning in a bottle that is rarely caught.
Sure.
That puts you on the mountain, in my opinion. And then when it went to the tour, though, I want to kind of back up a little bit to kind of remind people that the resistance level that it had on tour for golfers, when they first kind of hit a putt with a putter that had grooves on it, can you kind of remind people what happened back then on tour?
Well, and this was a discovery moment for me too. They're hitting. I didn't know this, but when these players would hit one of my putters with grooves on them, they weren't getting the same distance that they were getting with their Cameron or whatever.
Less energy transfer.
And so it kind of dawned on me the fact that, pretty simple, if the groove is wider than the contact surface, so and to give you some numbers, the land or the contact surface that separates the grooves is only 25% as wide as the groove. So 75% of the face wasn't touching the ball. And so there's less energy transfer, so therefore the ball didn't go as far.
Yeah.
And these guys, they'd say, well, I'm not getting it to the hole. And of course I would always say, well, just hit it harder. But you don't talk to a tour player.
That.
They don't like that. No, they're tour players. But basically it started to, people did get used to it.
Yeah.
And how much mass was behind the face or the design would cause it to go different amounts. And so really any putter has a different feel and a different launch to it. This was just softer than the Camerons.
But new always comes with resistance, and there's nothing new to having resistance to new.
Absolutely.
Right?
What happened was that it just nobody was willing to be the first guy.
Yeah.
And
so you were getting the arrows in your back. at first.
in the middle of my forehead.
But
yeah.
the interesting thing is, what initially had quite a bit of resistance, not only from the consumers and the tour pros and the manufacturers, quickly gained steam, obviously with the 2-bar, but also with the tour pros. I mean, how many wins did you have on tour? Do you remember with the
well, when you add
2-bar?
up everything with the 2-bar, you said 2-ball again.
Man, that was good.
That's
good.
Is that good marketing or what? No, when you add it all up and you go with the European Tour and the Champions Tour and the
Professional
PGA Tour and Korean Tour, the Korean Ladies Tour, we had almost half that Korean Ladies Tour.
Yeah.
We did big numbers in Korea, and in Japan Tour and worldwide.
Yeah.
We had about 100 or a little over 100 tour wins.
Yeah. So that resistance, when tour wins start to happen and you start selling 300-400, it crumbles.
Credibility, right? Yeah.
Correct. So this took you from a guy that had no idea what the hell a putter was and
or what he was doing,
or what the hell he was doing, to a guy that started to know what he was doing and started to figure out how what you were learning could help golfers shoot lower scores by helping them produce more consistent roll or better energy transfer or better accuracy on putts. Even though it is a slow science, we try to tell people here all the time, it's tech and no tech, right?
Yeah.
And if tech is in drivers and tech is in wedges and balls, it can also be in putters, but it is a slow science, so it has to be an exaggerated tech.
Exactly. Exaggeration in weight.
Correct.
Exaggeration in alignment. Exaggeration in roll technology on the face.
Yeah, but
it's the heaviest club in the bag, by far, and it's about scoring. I mean, it's 40% of your score. So everything you do to a putter has to have a purpose. Otherwise, it's just.
Yeah, it's just hard for consumers or golfers to believe that they can go from whatever putt. I mean, you hear it all the time. It's the Indian, not the arrow, whatever it might be, right? Or that Tiger could putt with a ham hock at the end of a stick.
No.
Those are great cliches and statements, but they're simply just not true.
They're not true.
And we've proven it, over and over in this facility. It's hard for consumers and golfers to believe. But that being said, tech works if it is purposeful tech that is exaggerated, that helps the ball.
But I would only add, Adam, that tech works if it's delivered in a way that it's beautiful to look at. The alignment is good. I mean, I'm a big believer in being totally fit properly with the putter. People, that's kind of come into play now. But the technology's great, but everything else has to be right.
You got to have the whole package.
You got to have the whole package, right?
Meaning,
so that's the whole point.
We're not a big proponent of sound and feel here because we don't see any correlation there yet to performance. That being said, it's no different than anything else. If you have tech in the exact same tech in two different putters and one is literally a monstrosity to look at, the likelihood of that person wanting to putt with that or that selling and impacting the masses is going to be less, right? So you do have to have the complete package or else you really don't have anything.
Sure. No, exactly. I agree.
So that kind of takes us from where you were to how you got to be known. And the Rife name got to be known really quickly. So then you sold Rife, correct?
Yes, the people and the investors that were part of the company in 2008, a lot of little companies had some trouble because of the economy. The golf business follows the stock market basically, and when things got really tough, you're sitting on your inventory. A lot of your small accounts don't pay their bills.
It goes to a lot of smaller putter brands, or Yes and Rife.
If you have a golf shop, little golf shop somewhere, you're going to pay Titleist, you're going to pay Callaway, you're going to pay TaylorMade and Ping because you have to have balls and clubs and irons and towels and shirts and gloves and all that stuff. But you don't have to pay that one-off little putter company. You can kind of like put them on hold. Well, if everybody's putting you on hold, you're in trouble.
Yep.
And we were carrying a heck of a lot of inventory. We're still doing an infomercial.
Well, you were churning and burning at first.
Churning and burning. We had $100,000 a month in infomercial cost, and all of a sudden, when the markets turned south, it left us with a very challenging environment, and so to say the least. And so, for the next few years, we just hung on, and we had some interest from some other companies, OEMs, but at the end of the day, we sold to a company that took the brand, and I went on my way. And so when I went on my way, I started to use my first name, and I did some designs and just kind of kept things rolling. Just kept
Yeah, we've
things
got
rolling.
one of those here actually. It's
Guerin,
probably yeah,
Guerin putters, right?
Guerin
exactly.
putters, and personally in here, it's one of the favorites of people that come through here. Not many people have ever hit one or seen one, but
No.
it was a great putter, and it was a great segue to the aha moment that you eventually had that led you to what you are doing now, which is
Right.
Evnroll putters.
Right.
And if you want to watch the next video that we're doing, this will be a perfect kind of evolution of not only where the groove started, where it was when he got to the 2-bar, and then where it is now. And it has truly been an evolution of the groove, and it has seen improvements along the way, and I think it's at its best point right now. So
Thanks.
yep.
Okay, but